Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Episode Tarek. I got a fun and unexpected episode for you guys this Tuesday because there is a new Neo Geo CD core build out there as of about 24 hours ago. And every time something fun or new happens in the world of MiSTer, I definitely want to cover it and do a video, especially when it is on the Neo Geo, one of my favorite consoles of all time. So we're going to go over new games that work, new features, new sounds, and talk about the core's performance. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, down below hit like and subscribe. That notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel something kind of want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, I wanted to check out the last blade because I do not believe I've tested this yet on the core because I was never able to get it to work. And the great part about the new Neo Geo CD core build is it works absolutely perfectly. The gameplay, the sound effects, the music, the Redbook audio, everything is here 100% in its Neo Geo CD form, which is to say that it'll take a little bit of loading compared to the AES or MVS variants of this game, and I do have the AES cartridge on my shelf, but the Neo Geo CD version has its own merits, and I'm absolutely so excited that this is now working on the current core build. And if somehow you've never played The Last Blade before, 100% play it or its sequel, The Last Blade 2. It is a beautiful game, a mechanically amazing fighting game. There is nothing wrong with The Last Blade that I could possibly think of other than the fact that at a certain point in time you're going to beat it and the experience does end. And it is working exactly as expected on the core here. All of the controls are responsive, all of the music is there, all of the sound effects work. The scaling on the backgrounds and your sprites, it is just a 10 out of 10 as far as the function is concerned. I absolutely love it. And this is one that a lot of people asked me about the last time I tested the Neo Geo CD core. But again, it's so much fun to watch the progress of these developments be made, and no one really anticipated an update to the Neo Geo CD core. It just kind of popped up. Somebody sent me a message and said, hey, it's here, and I figured I would dedicate a day to testing it, talking about it, because I know even though we have the AES and MVS on MiSTer, a lot of people love Neo Geo CD for that arranged soundtrack on the Redbook audio, so it is a benefit. Now of course, Neo Geo CD downside is loading times, and I know everyone's going to ask in the comments down below, and I'll tell you right now, it is 1-to-1 with real hardware. Nothing is improved as of yet. Now moving on to another game that didn't have any audio the last time I tested it, and I haven't shown it to you guys yet, is Aero Fighters 2. It is one of my preferred shmups on the Neo Geo, because not only is it mechanically amazing, but it also has a really fun sense of humor that I just can't get enough of. Like, as you go through the characters here, yes, that is a baby, and yes, that is a dolphin, and if you're not playing as Spanky, you're not playing Aero Fighters 2 correctly. All jokes aside, leave me a comment down below, tell me what your favorite character in this game is, and tell me why there was just an outline of a giant baby on the ground that had fallen from the sky. It's a weird game, but it's an amazing game. It's got a spectacular soundtrack, and it is just 100% working here on the Neo Geo CD core. And the best part about a game like Aero Fighters 2 is that the loading times are absolutely tiny. Second best part is Japanese buildings will just come out of the ground like rocket ships and go right towards your spaceship. It's definitely a vibe. I'm 100% there for it. And this is one of those games where I think in some ways it can be better than the Neo Geo AES or MVS, because it shows that if you're not loading a lot of data into the Neo Geo CD at once, that the loading times really don't matter too much. And that's what I really like to talk about, because so often the Neo Geo CD gets knocked for having bad loading times. And I am not saying they are good, and we certainly don't have Neo Geo CD Z support in the core yet, but even if we just get that and no other speed increases, it is doable, and there's a lot to love on the Neo Geo CD, and I know a lot of people don't own one or don't collect for it like I do, so a lot of people, your first experience with this might be MiSTer, and I love that he never thought he'd be flying over a jungle. A little bit of a grammar issue there. Maybe the dolphin just has a fryolator in his cockpit. Leave me a comment down below and tell me which one you think it is. But this is just a great example of what the Neo Geo CD can do, and it's a great example of the performance of the core at this current state and time. All of the controls are perfect, the sound is great, the sound effects are there. It is just a 1-to-1 experience compared to real hardware. But let me give you a taste of what the Redbook audio sounds like, so go ahead and listen to King of Fighters for like 45 seconds or so, and I'll come back and show you more games that are working perfectly. But enjoy! At least to my ear, that sounds perfect, but leave me a comment down below and tell me if you hear anything that you don't think should be there. And do remember with the Neo Geo, some of those sound effects sounding a little bit crunchy is more the hardware for the sound on the Neo Geo than it would be for the core. So at least to my ear, I couldn't detect anything there that was an issue whatsoever. And the last time I played King of Fighters 96 on the previous core, I had absolutely no music whatsoever. I just had sound effects. So this is a massively improved experience on the new core. So many more games have soundtrack where I couldn't get them to work the previous time, and some games that I couldn't get to work whatsoever are now running. And that's what's the fun part about following along with these developments, showing you guys what works, what doesn't work, what improves, what still needs improvement, because there are still some games that I've not yet been able to run. Stuff like The Last Blade 2, other people have had slight success with it. I'm wondering if it's the file type I am using, but that's just a game that I have not yet got to run on this current core. But again, because all of these games are so input intensive, if there was any lag or any issue in that area whatsoever, you'd 100% be able to tell. And as far as King of Fighters 96, I can see nothing. Now, one thing I can tell you is a problem is World Heroes Perfect. I got into the main menu, I got into the character select screen, and I'm not sure if you played this game or not, but I'm pretty sure you can tell there is an issue with the artwork here, and none of those layers are going to fix it whatsoever. And then when I did get into the game, it basically ran, and the versus screen here 100% worked, but when we transition into the actual game itself, the character sprites are on screen, but the background is completely broken, and then it just freezes. It's still running, but I lost all input and it stopped executing the code for the characters. So if you're looking to play World Heroes Perfect on the current Neo Geo CD core, it just isn't working, but I'm sure as this core gets more work, it'll probably go into that working status, and hey, a lot of these things are organic, so maybe it'll work on your system. Moving over to the original Metal Slug, and I do love that they give you a map on the loading screen. It is a little nice touch. This is just 100% perfect as far as I can tell. And that's not to say it doesn't have slowdown. This is the Neo Geo after all, and you're going to get the same slowdown as you would on AES or MVS. But the slowdown is where you would expect it to be. And again, it's just another one of those games that is working, and I couldn't tell the difference between this and my original Neo Geo CD copy if I put them side by side and you didn't tell me what I was playing on. And that's the great thing about this core revision. It's just starting to feel like if you're in a blind taste test for a lot of the games, you would just not be able to detect what was MiSTer and what was the Neo Geo CD if you had a good RGB signal out. And just like the King of Fighters 96, Metal Slug also has perfect audio as far as I can tell on the current core, and it's got an absolutely amazing soundtrack as a game, so go ahead and listen for 30 seconds this time, and I'll come back and show you more games on the Neo Geo CD that just work. Again, if there's any issues there whatsoever, I cannot hear them, but again, I'm not an audiophile and I do sometimes miss things in the audio department, so listen closely and leave me a comment down below. If you're familiar with Metal Slug, tell me if that sounds like you would expect it to, or tell me if there's any issues there, because I am way better detecting glitches on the visual aspect of things than the audio. But again, absolutely spectacular game, spectacular version on the Neo Geo CD, and it's running spectacularly here on MiSTer. That's a lot of spectaculars in a row, but that's how good it is currently doing. Now, one game that everyone asked me if it worked last time I did a testing video, and I was surprised, is going to be Overtop. Now, fair warning, I am absolute garbage at isometric games. Whether they be shooting games or racing games, if you give me an isometric view, for the most part, my brain is going to break as far as spatial awareness is concerned, and I'm just going to drive a car continually into a wall, which is what you're going to see here. It is just not my genre, I'm no good at it, but what's working really well here is not my driving, but the performance in the core, because I just drove head-on into a wall and forgot to turn completely there. But this is another one of those classic Neo Geo games that a lot of people love. I just happen to be garbage at it. But it is working here on the Neo Geo CD core, and I can detect no issues either. All of the steering is as good as it can be, which is to say good for somebody who knows what they're doing, terrible for me who sucks at this game. All of the sound effects, all of the audio also working great, and this game doesn't load much at all on the Neo Geo CD, so it's one of those experiences that kind of highlights what the best parts of the Neo Geo CD are. Different audio, really great look, that Neo Geo feel, but you don't have to worry about watching it load for a minute in between matches, something like the King of Fighters when you have a 3 versus 3 battle. But leave me a comment down below and tell me, do you play over top and do you like it? And what the hell do I need to do to get better at isometric games? Because it's just one of those genres I have never been able to figure out how to play them well. I just bounce into the wall until I give up. But that's kind of the thing. Not every genre is for everybody, and you can tell me down below as well what your favorite Neo Geo genre is, because I would be curious. Now, on the list of games that never used to work for me and now just work is going to be Twinkle Star Sprites. And I have mentioned this game on previous videos talking about Neo Geo, but this is one of my favorite games on the platform. It is a shmup that also kind of plays like a weird Puyo Puyo or Tetris hybrid game, and it's basically a versus battle action game with shooting mechanics. It's colorful, it's quirky, it's weird, and it is one of the quintessential games for the Neo Geo and Neo Geo CD. And it just works here. All of the sound, all of the music, all of the controls, all of the loading. I played the first 3 rounds of Twinkle Star Sprites and I had absolutely no issues whatsoever. And again, it's another game that if you put me in a room, handed me a controller, didn't let me see what it was running on, I do not think I could tell you whether or not this was MiSTer or an original Neo Geo CD. The only way I could tell you currently is if it was a CDZ because it loads faster. And as I mentioned earlier, CDZ support is not yet in this core functioning. But it's just such a fun, quirky, strange game, and if you've never played it before, I can't highly recommend it enough. Just load it up on your MiSTer, give it a shot. It's got such a strange sense of humor. It is definitely one of those games you're either going to love it or hate it. There doesn't seem to be any in between. But one of my favorite aspects of Twinkle Star Sprites is the soundtrack. It's colorful, quirky, and cheery, and just like the last 2 examples, it sounds perfect here on MiSTer. So go ahead and listen for 30 seconds. I'll show you one more game and we'll close this video out. But enjoy!
やるかいのステージ2レディーゴーリバースエキストラアタックエキストラアタック
Great song and great performance on the current MiSTer FPGA core. And one other game that I don't think I've tested yet and people were asking me to check out next time there was a core update is Top Hunter, Roddy and Kathy, and I will say, just like every other game on this list that wasn't World Heroes perfect, it just did exactly what I expected it to. It loaded, it played, it had a soundtrack, it had sound effects, it didn't freeze, it just felt like you were playing real hardware. And I think that's what we're kind of getting with this core right now. The games that work well just seem like they are perfect. It kind of feels like the Sega Saturn core currently, which is some games you could never tell if they weren't original Saturn hardware. Some games have glitches and some games just don't work at all whatsoever. Because in the previous core, King of Fighters 99 loaded for me using the exact same files, the exact same BIOS. In this current core, it just does not read the disk. It could be a disk issue with the current code. I'm really not sure. I'll have to do some more testing, but you might see a little bit of regression on this core because I did see that with the King of Fighters 99. But Top Hunter, Roddy and Kathy is one of the best platformers on the Neo Geo and Neo Geo CD, and it doesn't load much either. It's another great example of a Neo Geo CD game that uses the advantages of the CD format, but doesn't get many of the disadvantages of that chronic and constant loading. So if you've never played it, I definitely recommend checking it out. But that's the current batch of tests on the current Neo Geo CD core for MiSTer. If you have a new core as of the last 36 hours, you are playing on the most recent core. It is manual installation, and I did a tutorial in the last Neo Geo CD video, so if you want to learn how to use it, go and follow that, or just ask me in the comments. I'll point you in the right direction. But honestly, Neo Geo CD feels like 80 to 85% done, and I can't wait to see it get finished. Short of that, leave me a comment down below if you got any questions, but I will see you tomorrow for normal schedule. Bye-bye.